Hey guys, happy Saturday. I have my flock in the car. You can see them all four of them. We are enjoying the day. And I thought I would talk about, I had a student that I taught when he was in 7th grade, which makes me feel pretty old at this point. But he is now his first year out of college, and he's just started his career. And I guess he saw my post yesterday that had the clarity equation. So if you look at that post, it says, and basically in order to gain clarity, here's your formula. And again, because I taught science, I like to use formulas or the scientific method, which, in case you forgot, the scientific method always starts with a problem. You define the problem and then you create a hypothesis, which in middle school we used an if-then statement, and then we created a plan to attack and solve the problem. Anyways, so my post yesterday had the equation what plus y over purpose plus value. And so I kind of talked through it with him a little bit because he was like, okay, I don't understand this one, help me, because I used to be his teacher, and now several years later I'm in the business I'm in now. And I said, well, what is it that you want in life? So let's kind of go back. I said, when you graduated high school and you were deciding what school to go to and pick a career, what did you base it off of? And sometimes I think we get so conditioned that we even have to go to school, and we don't really know what we want in life, and so we just kind of pick something. And so I told him, you have to reverse engineer it. It's what kind of life do you want to live? Then determine what you do for a career. But you've got to get really clear on the life and then figure out why. So that's that, what do you want, but then why do you want it? Okay, so I told him that's the numerator. And then on the bottom, that's where he was struggling, was purpose plus value. So he felt like he knew what his value was by now, but he asked me, and I thought about this kind of, deeply, where he said, how do I know if I'm living my purpose? And I told him, I said, that's a good question. It's defining your purpose is, if that was your problem for the scientific method, it's a discovery process. And sometimes you don't always get it right after college. My first degree was in nursing, and then my second degree was in teaching. And so I told him, I said, what I do know, and I challenge this with millennials, if you go full speed at whatever it is that you're doing and you are committed, it'll help you discover what your true purpose is. But you can't have one foot in, one foot out, because you're always going to have multiple doors of opportunity. And you've got to pick a door, and you've got to burn the boats, and you've got to go for it. And I think when you go full speed and you're all in, that's what's going to help you discover your true purpose. And so as we talked through it really helped him, and I thought maybe I should do a little video segment in case anyone else saw that same equation and kind of pondered the same thing. Because, I told him, I said, it's funny when we're little, and I see people do it with my kids, they'll ask, what do you want to be when you get older? And I almost cringe when I hear the question, because you hear, I want to be a fireman, I want to be, a nurse, I want to be a teacher. And I'm trying to reprogram my own kids and ask them, what do you want in life? What kind of life do you want? Do you want to be able to travel and go on vacation and live on your own time? Not someone else telling you whose time you have to clock in and clock out. Then figure out how to solve that problem. But you first have to get really clear on what you want. Same thing with this girl I know who's, she's about 26 and she's not married yet. And she's asked me, how do you know if he's the one? How will you ever know? And I told her, I said, well, you can't focus on him, the picture of him. You've got to focus on what kind of life you want with that perfect mate in the future. But if you're not clear on that vision, then anybody's going to work. You'll probably end up settling because you've never thought forward enough to make sure that is that guiding your choices, those small micro decisions that we have every single day that are usually 50-50 decisions. Do I do this or do I do this? And it's going to be typically the one that gives us instant gratification or that is most comfortable to make. But if we're not really clear on the vision and the purpose, then we end up by default making those micro decisions that over time, I feel like, gives us a life maybe of achievement, but it's not fulfilled. So that's where I've discovered, and he kind of asked me, well, how did you get into mortgages now? And, what made you go from nursing to teaching and into the space that you do every day? And I said, well, there's one thing I know for sure, is I feel joy and fulfillment when I serve people. And as long as I'm always learning and growing, and sometimes that means unlearning and relearning things about myself and becoming more aware, I feel fulfilled. And I can serve in many different industries. So there's a stage where I wanted to be a nurse, and I envisioned I was going to be Patch Adams of the hospital, yet I was lacking the true relationship with the kids because I didn't see them every day. Well, then you become a teacher, and you're with kids almost longer than most parents are with their kids, unfortunately. Yet I was able to change the trajectory of kids' lives right before they went to high school, which I thought was a critical year. And now, helping people with their most precious and safest place, like a home. I mean, I get to see the whole story financially of, credit, income, assets, and it's the one thing that we keep dreaming about as adults, is our dream home, or that castle that we want to have, and that safe place that we call home. I get to, stretch people's thinking around a strategy with a mortgage, and that's just the day-to-day of families I get to help. In fact, on Friday, my daughter was like, oh, how was your day? I said, I got to help a family buy a home. They had 5 kids. They were moving here from Utah. And they had 5 kids. They were living out of a pod. They had a rough time. And I was able to serve them and help them with their dream home with a pool. And they were so ecstatic and happy. And it makes me feel good. And then I also get to work with, business partners who, whether it's a divorce attorney or real estate agent or my financial analyst that I work with, and I get to help them build a business and learn their story and change the trajectory of their life. And so essentially, it doesn't matter what industry I pick, the byproduct is, maybe writing mortgages or creating a lesson plan, but the true purpose for me is just serving and continuously learning and using that to impact others. So if you haven't taken time to look at that clarity equation, I challenge you to do so, to really think about what it is you want, why you want it, and then look at your purpose and your value, and that's the sweet spot. So just thought I would share. And for any of my old students that are on this account, send me a DM. I'd love to catch up and see what y'all are up to and see how you're living your purpose.